Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, on our showcase of the independents, we're gonna profile some independent companies and their best matches of 2025. The first one on the list is Prestige Wrestling out of Portland, Oregon. This company was founded in 2017. Unfortunately, they announced back in November that 2026 show, February 20th, 2026, the Roseland XII will be their final show. They're going on hiatus. Could be permanent, could be at least definitely indefinite. We don't know if it's permanent or not. I hate to see any of these independent wrestling companies go out. We know with 7 years ago now, when AEW came about, they took a lot of that talent came from the independents, and a lot of people have looked down on AEW because of that. I don't really look at AEW as taken away from a Prestige or even the Deadlock Pro that also announced their hiatus. I think the WID programs also played a factor in that, because now you have these independent talent who are under contract with WWE. Yes, it helps them, it trains them, it gives them, different perspective of the business, but it also blocks them from different companies they can't go to. So now you've actually taken a chunk of wrestlers and eliminated companies they can't work for. I know what pretty much seems like anything that AEW wrestlers do, WWID talent wrestlers can't do. I know we've seen a little bit of that, not a whole lot, but I still think it affects companies like a Prestige, because now those WWID talents are going to charge more to go do a show versus what they were 2 years ago. So I think that also affects promoters like Prestige Wrestling. But I also think that we are in an era in professional wrestling right now with 3 big companies in the U.S., some pretty big independent companies like a GCW and whatnot, but we still need the Prestiges of the world, the West Coast Pros of the world. Those are still needed. I hate to see them go away, but you know what? For every door that closes, another door opens. So we're going to kind of look at Prestige from 2025. They had 12 shows. They had 2 shows that they co-branded with West Coast Pro. They had 2 additional shows that were triple branded with West Coast Pro, Prestige, and Deadlock Pro. Unfortunately, we're losing Deadlock Pro as well. We'll do that video later today. So for 2025, 103 matches for Prestige Wrestling. 86 of them men's, 15 women, 2 intergender. The Prestige champion is Kevin Blackwood, 90 plus days. The Prestige tag team champions, the Midnight Heat, one of the top tag teams on the independents, Eddie Pearl and Ricky Gibson, 266 days. Now, when I watch wrestling and rate these matches, I don't use my same brain parts to every company. What I mean by that, when I watch a WWE show, I don't compare that to any other company. When I'm watching an AEW show, I don't compare that to any other company. When I'm watching GCW, I don't compare that. When I'm watching these independent companies like a Prestige Wrestling, like a West Coast Pro, like a Deadlock Pro, I'm more kind of watching these with the attitude of independence, these companies, what they typically do. Because you're not going to see in some companies a lot of blood. You're not going to see a lot of street fights. You're just going to see in-ring. So, when I say a match is 4-star, if it's 4-star in Prestige Wrestling, it may or may not be a 4-star in AEW based on their style. May or may not be a 4-star in WWE. A 5-star in New Japan isn't going to be the same as a 5-star in WWE. So I'm able to process stuff in my little brain where things are a little different. I don't just flatline, it's a 5-star match everywhere. Depends on the company and the way that company works. A company like New Japan, they may have longer matches. They may do more in that match that you're never going to see in another company. So you can't, if New Japan is a 5-star, take that brain thought and the way you watch that match and you put it to a Prestige match, a Prestige wrestling match will never live up. You can't do that. At least I don't. So this is kind of how I rate matches, 0 to 5. So the whole 5-star thing. All right, so Prestige 25 best matches of 2025. Number 25 came from June 1st. It was a Prestige Wrestling West Coast Pro crossover, Conquer the World. It was for the West Coast Pro Heavyweight Championship. It was champion Kevin Blackwood versus Daniel Orion. Kevin Blackwood retained his title here. I gave it 3.5. Now these first 6 matches are all 3.5. They're kind of in order, but they're all kind of lumped together as well. For me, I don't separate 3.5-star matches, 4-star matches, 5-star matches. They are what they are. This is the order. Now some people may be able to say, okay, this 3.5-star match is better than this 3.5, which is better than this. Sometimes when I kind of rank those, I separate them. It's based on who's in it and who I like, and maybe what other body of work they have. Next up, number 24 on the list comes from November 7th. It was a Prestige West Coast Pro crossover, Pro Strength Beyond Strength. It was for the West Coast Pro Tag Team Champions. It was the champions, the Crush Boys, Starboard Charlie, Titus O'Neil, taking on the Young Dead, Michael Moore, and Vishu Akai. The Crush Brothers, Starboard Charlie, Titus O'Neil, retained their titles, 3.5-star match. From the same show, Prestige Wrestling West Coast Pro Strength Beyond Strength, the West Coast Pro Golden Gate Championship, champion Andrew Cass taking on Adrian Quest. Andrew Cass got the victory. I gave it 3.5. I would say the next 3 matches are kind of definitely 2 of the 3 are guys I really, really like. And with the other one, I actually find the champion incredibly talented. I wish he would be in bigger companies for Prestige. But the next one up is from number 22 on the list is from June 1st. It was one of the triple crossover events, Prestige Wrestling West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro. It was the United event on June 1st. It was for the Prestige Wrestling Championship. It was then champion Alan Angels taking on Jordan Oliver, East Coast Ace Jordan Oliver. I was kind of hoping Jordan Oliver was going to win this. He's actually one of my favorite independent wrestlers, but it was retained. The title was retained by champion Alan Angels, 3.5-star match. Number 21 on the list comes from the exact same show, Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro, United, there on June 1st. This was for the West Coast Pro Heavyweight Championship. This was for champion Kevin Blackwood taking on Shane Hasty. Champion Kevin Blackwood was able to retain his title. Number 20 on the list comes from the Prestige West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro Cruel Summer on July 26th. It was for the Prestige Wrestling Championship. It was champion Judas Icarus taking on Leon Slater. Yeah, the same Leon Slater that we see on TNA. We see in NXT. We've seen on WWE main roster. We've seen in Rev Pro. That Leon Slater. He won the match by disqualification. Obviously, the titles don't change hands on disqualification unless that is one of the match stipulations. He won that in the 3.5-star match. Number 19 on the list comes from Pro Wrestling Shark Ethic on September 13th for the Prestige Wrestling Championship. It was champion Judas Icarus taking on Titus Alexander. Judas Icarus retained his title in the 3 3/4-star match. Number 18 came from Roseland VI. Matter of fact, the next 5 matches came from Roseland VI on April 12th. First one here was for the Prestige Wrestling Championship. It was champion Al Angels taking on Timothy Thatcher. Yes, the WWE ID Pro coach, Timothy Thatcher. Al Angels retained his title in a 3 3/4-star match. Number 17, also from Roseland VI. On April 12th, we had Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Matt Bennington. These are the talent of wrestlers that companies like a Prestige can get a hold of and put on their card. This is Zack Sabre Jr., a IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He goes out there and beats Matt Bennington, 3 3/4-star match. Number 16 on the list, again also from Roseland VI, Azam versus Hyon. Azam was able to win the match. She won the match, 3 3/4 star, one of the best women matches of the year, in my opinion. Number 15, again from the same Roseland VI show from April 12th, West Coast Pro Tag Team Championships on the line. The champions, the Lacrosse Boys, Starboy Charlie, Titus Alexander, taking on Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee. The Lacrosse Boys were able to retain their titles here in a 3 3/4 star match. Number 14 actually came from Roseland 5, January 11th. For those of you that are new to Prestige Wrestling, Roseland is kind of their big arena they go to. That is kind of their almost level of WrestleMania when they go to Roseland. So that's why there's so many different ones here and so many great matches from the Roseland shows. And that's why their final match will be Roseland 8 there on February 20th. You can go to their YouTube page and check out their shows. They're also on Independent Wrestling IWTV. There's some older Prestige shows on there. It is a company to go, is worth to watch if you're looking for some wrestling to watch. This match here, Roseland 5, was Masada Tanaka taking on Kevin Blackwood. This was a hard-hitting, just striking match. Kevin Blackwood winning the match, 3 3/4 star. Number 13 came from Prestige Wrestling Combat Clash 2025 on July 13th. It was a fatal 4-way. Mustafa Ali, yes, of TNA, Jordan Oliver of GCW, Cody Chen of Defy Wrestling, Man Like the Least from Progress Wrestling champion, matter of fact. So again, this is the level of talent that Prestige and other independent companies are able to get. These are 4 of the top guys on the independent circuit, in my opinion. Now, the 4 of the top guys, and having them in a fatal 4-way match here on a Prestige show at Combat Clash was just absolutely amazing. I wish this company would have been able to continue. I know, obviously, financials is a thing, getting people in the door, getting talent like this, and I've heard Brett Lauderdale of GCW talk about sometimes when you bring these talent in from other companies, especially if they're contracted, like, you know, Mustafa Ali's contracted with TNA, sometimes it's hard to, they may, you know, have to change your car last minute. You may not be able to get somebody there. They may have an engagement that came up that's more important, you know. So you got to be able to be so fluid on changing your card, and sometimes it's hard to advertise somebody if you're not 100% sure they can be there, and that also affects the gate. Yeah, so I can understand it to a point. But matches like this, with Cody Chung getting the victory in this 4-way, 3 3/4 star match. Number 12 on the list comes from Prestige Wrestling Big Kiss Goodnight on November 18th. Judas Icarus taking on Jordan Cruz. Judas Icarus getting the victory there. I give it 3 3/4 star. Number 11 came from the same show. Big Kiss Goodnight, November 18th. We have Travis Williams taking on Fancy Ryan Clancy. He's one of those guys, Ryan Clancy. You're starting to see him more on the GCWs. You're starting to see him more in other independents. He's from the Northeast, so going all the way across the country, a lot of travel for him. But he's kind of that guy, that little territory up in the Northeast, you know, Maine, New Hampshire, that whole area, who is almost like an untapped talent of wrestlers in that area that only the people that follow indies know these guys, but they're hella talented, and they just have never gotten that big break. And I call it a territory because it's kind of like it was before Vince made WWE so big. You had all these little territories around the country, and wrestlers would go territory to territory, have some big profile matches against people in that territory. Like Ric Flair used to do this, and Ricky Steamboat did this, and so it's like the Northeast kind of area is kind of almost reverted back with like the Limitless wrestling of the world. Can't think. MLW's up there, House of Glory's up there. Can't think of all of them right now. There's a list of them that are up there. And Ryan Clancy, Beyond Wrestling's up there. Ryan Clancy wrestles for a lot of those. So seeing him going across the country to wrestle this show here was absolutely amazing to me. Travis Williams was able to get the victory. I give it 3 3/4 star. Number 10 on the list comes from Prestige Wrestling, Butte of the Strong. Prestige Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion Alan Angels taking on Cody Chen. Alan Angels getting the victory. I give it 3 3/4 star. Number 9 on the list came from a crossover event, Prestige Wrestling West Coast Pro Strength Beyond Strength. For the West Coast Pro Heavyweight Champion Vinny Massaro, taking on Royce Isaac. Champion Vinny Massaro retained his title. 3 3/4 star match. Number 8 came from Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro United from June 1st. It was for the West Coast Pro Tag Team Champions. One of my favorite tag teams, Cowboy Way, the champions, with One Call Manders and Thomas Shire, taking on Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. These two tag teams are kind of the face, the heel. You kind of definitely, if you're watching the show, you know who's who. Cowboy Way, great tag team. Individually, these guys, all 4 of these guys are so talented. Cowboy Way was able to retain their tag titles. I gave it 3 3/4 star. Number 7 on the list came from Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, DDP United, that June 1st show. Cedric Alexander taking on Trevor Lee. Cedric Alexander getting the victory. I gave it 3 3/4 star match. Number 6 comes from the triple show of Prestige, West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro, Cruel Summer on July 26th. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match for the West Coast Pro World Heavyweight title. Champion Kevin Blackwood taking on Cedric Alexander. Kevin Blackwood retaining his title in 3 3/4 star match. Number 5 comes from Roseland XII on April 12th. It was KZ taking on Kevin Blackwood. Kevin Blackwood winning in a 4-star match. Number 4 came from Prestige Wrestling, Nothing to Lose. Kevin Blackwood taking on Leon Slater. It's Leon Slater, as we've seen on NXT, as we've seen him on TNA, and I've seen him over in Progress and Rev Pro and other places. Just hella talented dude. 4-star match against Kevin Blackwood here. Absolutely love seeing him everywhere. If you've not seen everything, you've seen nothing. I think that's the TNA tagline nowadays. Number 3 on the list comes Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, Pro Strength Beyond Strength, Prestige Wrestling Championship. Champion Kevin Blackwood taking on Judas Icarus. Kevin Blackwood retaining his title in a 4-star match. The best tag team match of the year for Prestige Wrestling was number 2 on the list here. From that Cruel Summer, Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro, for the West Coast Pro Tag Team Champions. Champions, the Cowboy Way, One Call Manners, Thomas Shire, taking on the Crush Boys of Starboy Charlie and Titus Alexander. This match was absolutely amazing tag team match. I ended up giving it 4 1/4 star. And then the number 1 match for Prestige Wrestling of 2025 came from the July 13th show, Prestige Wrestling Combat Clash. It was a steel cage match for the Prestige Wrestling Championship. Champion Alan Angels taking on Judas Icarus, and Judas Icarus becoming the Prestige Wrestling Heavyweight Champion that day in a 4 1/4 star match. So those are the 25 best matches of Prestige Wrestling 2025. Again, we found out in November that Prestige will be going on hiatus after the Roseland show on February 20th. If you've not ever seen Prestige Wrestling, please tune into that show on YouTube. If you're in the area, please go to that show. Show the owners of Prestige Wrestling that wrestling fans want them to be around. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show as we go through the month of January here. We're going to profile some independent companies from 2025, and we're going to get ready for the big shows this year. As much as I hate seeing companies leave, we do have other companies that are going to put on big shows, and we're going to try to watch as much as we can this year, just like we have in past years. And then with the ultimate goal of 2030, doing the best 1,000 matches of the decade of the 2020s. If you've not seen everything, you've seen nothing. I think that's the tagline TNA uses now. Alright, as always, thanks for watching the Robert Sports Show. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show for more independent pro wrestling talk. As always, don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports show content.